I want to get started with our first guest. I am honored to have Nathan Couch on the show tonight. Nathan grew up in the foothills of northeast Georgia's Appalachian Mountains. Given the area's rich tradition of ghost stories and folklore, it's no wonder he developed a passion for the bizarre and the unexplained. Nathan is currently a resident of West Bend, Wisconsin, and is the owner and tour guide of Downtown West Bend Ghost Walks. His first book, Washington County Paranormal, A Wisconsin Legend Trip, was published in 2012, and his fictional short story, Anna, appeared in 2013 in the WWA Press Anthology, A Wisconsin Harvest Volume 2. He has also written articles and columns for Film Fanatics, WisconsinSickness.com, CultOfWeird.com, just to name a few. His website is www.jnathancouch.com. You can go check it out. There's quite a bit out there. And, of course, his latest book, which we want to talk about, Goatman, Flesh or Folklore. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and get him on the line. Nathan, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio, my friend.
Hello, thanks for having me.
How is the weather up there in the wilds of Wisconsin?
Significantly worse than what you were experiencing in Salt Lake. It's about 30 degrees with a low of 25, but for this time of year in Wisconsin, that's actually pretty good. So.
Yeah, I know. I've been watching the weather. I'm a Chicago native, Nathan, and I moved out here some 20 years ago. So of course I keep an eye on the weather back there. And boy, that polar vortex and stuff hit Wisconsin and Minneapolis and brought snow. Just crazy this year.
Yeah, there was 1 week about 3 weeks ago where I think it was -9 for a couple of days, and that's just brutal even for this area. So luckily I was out east doing a little research in Maryland, so I ended up missing most of that. Luckily, so.
Sounds good. So let me ask you, it's been a while since we've done a show on cryptids, and when I came across you and your work here several months ago and asked you to come on the show because I find what you're doing fascinating, how did you get into all of this? How did this all start for you?
Well, I first learned about Goatman shortly after moving to West Bend, Wisconsin, which is about 25 minutes north of Milwaukee. And I was at a Washington County Historical Society Halloween event, and they started talking about this legend of a creature that resembles a Greek satyr running around the landscape here in my new home. And the very idea of something resembling Greek mythology roaming around, southeastern Wisconsin was such a bizarre notion. I immediately had to know everything about it. And I was researching a book about local legends and curses and monster sightings here in Washington County, and someone who actually had encountered Goatman, and that really, really got me into the subject, and I immediately knew I wanted to know everything there was to know about this topic.
So okay, let me ask you this now. Have people physically, have they encountered this thing? Have they... on your website, you've got a picture what looks like a goat with something with a goat head with big horns sitting on top of a man's body.
That particularly disturbing image is, of course, created in Photoshop by Mental Shed Studios, the guys who run my website. But that does match the description of what's supposed to be running around Wisconsin. The descriptions of these things, there's typically two descriptions of Goatman, and these things are cited all over. One is your typical description of a Greek satyr, man's upper half with horns, two goat-like legs with hooves below. And then there is the more beast-like, horned creature with a face like a goat's and completely covered in hair with two goat-like legs and hooves.
Interesting. So has anybody been able to capture a photo of this thing, of this guy or gal or whatever it is?
Well, there are no known photographs of this creature, but Goatman it's a very different topic than anything I'm really aware of out there in the realm of cryptozoology, even the Fortean world, because it's a double-headed topic, really, because we have something like Bigfoot. You have sighting. And then when you have Goatman, you have the sightings. But then over here on the left-hand side, you have all the folklore surrounding it. These things are just, there's areas all over the country where there's so much urban legend.
Right.
And it's very, the urban legends are full of just this unbelievable stuff that can't be true, stuff taken right out of an Ed Wood or Roger Corman drive-in movie. But then on the other side, of course, you have people who are seeing something that looks like these goat men and getting the living daylights scared out.
Has this creature ever brought harm or killed anybody, or is it ever, even with folklore, what have you, with traditional talk about it, is it ever harmed anybody or killed anybody?
Well, all the folklore is full of bloody mayhem. These things, they typically they're rumored to hang out in locations that are considered to be lovers' lanes, any secluded place where teenagers go out to drink and be alone with a significant other. And the stories are full of axe murders and all sorts of things like that. Has anybody actually been killed by them? Nothing confirmed, although there is a case, an example of a goat man in Louisville, Kentucky. He goes by the name regionally as the Poplick Monster. He got his name from a trestle called the Poplick Trestle that spans Poplick Creek.
Okay. This
trestle is about 500 feet high, 500 feet long, in excess of 500 feet long. There are, it's several, at least 200 feet up in the air. It's very, very tall. I've been to this bridge. And it's one of those places, if anyone out there listening has ever seen that old, film Stand By Me based on the Stephen King novella.
Right.
Where they're crossing that trestle, they hear the train come and they have to outrun it. It's exactly that scenario. These train tracks are still heavily trafficked, and it's so long, it's physically impossible to outrun a train once you can hear it.
Right.
You can't hang from the edge of the track because it takes over 10 minutes for a train to clear this trestle. So you'll be shaken loose. And it's so high up in the air, nobody has ever survived jumping off.
Right.
And the Poplick Monster allegedly has all of these abilities to, entice people out on the track, supposedly.
Gotcha.
They use they use hypnosis and things like that. And several people have got killed.
Let me stop you for just a second. We've got to take a quick commercial break and a pause for our other stations. Our guest tonight, Nathan Couch. It's an honor to have him here tonight. We'll be right back. Fringe Radio. Check us out at fringeradioshow.com. We got a long night again. Hang in there. Welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guest tonight is Nathan Couch. Sorry, Nathan, we had to take a quick pause for other stations that pick up and drop with us. So we were talking a little bit about starting to talk a little bit about Goatman and the I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. The trestle creature that hangs around the trestles.
The Poplick Monster.
Poplick Monster. There you go.
Yeah. So essentially, this train track, once you go up there, it's heavily trafficked. It's impossible to get off it if a train comes. One way or the other, you're either going to get hit by a train or you're going to fall to your death. And several people have been killed going out on that track. They've either been hit by the train or they jumped and then died later from injuries. So there are certain people in the community who can't fathom why kids go out on this track hoping to see this goatman-like creature, because that's the story. If you go out there, you can see him, and rumor has it that it lures you out there. Now, it is more than likely that it's just kids going out there for a thrill, not realizing how much danger they're putting themselves in. But there are a couple of people who believe that some sort of enticement, some kind of supernatural enticement was used to get them out there. And so I guess that you can say that that's as close as we've gotten to an actual goat man killing someone, depending on what side of the argument you're on for that one.
So people feel like, I guess maybe they're called or they're summoned out there, but for some reason?
Yeah, they say he can use hypnosis or mimicry or telepathy to get you out there on those tracks.
Interesting, very interesting. In the Inception chat room, a lot of people have been posting different pictures. There's Goatman can look a lot of different ways. He can almost look like the devil, or maybe she. Well, I guess it's a man, so can look very mystical. A lot of different renditions.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, and of course, it's generally considered that when the devil, the Christian devil, really got his look solidified in artwork. That the god Pan, or Faunus, from Greek and Roman mythology, was sort of used as a way to, kind of convince the last of the European pagans that were holding out to switch sides. So that's where these goatmen-like creatures get their satanic resemblance. Pretty much Pan and Faunus and satyrs, they were the template for the devil that you see in all the paintings in art museums.
Yeah. Very interesting. Now, I was looking on your website, and you put a blog out there just recently about the Goatman of Heron, Illinois. Is that another sighting or another area where people think they've seen something?
Well, that is something that I just received 2 or 3 days ago in my email from someone who had heard me on a podcast talking about Goatman flesh or folklore, and this fellow had no idea. He had never heard of a Goatman before he heard that podcast. He had not heard any sort of legends. As far as I know, there is no Goatman folklore in that part of southern Illinois. And he was walking home one night through this. There's a road leading out from his town into an unincorporated community called, I think, Painesville, Illinois. And the road is so dark, it's really difficult to see the ground even. And he heard this noise, and he got a little closer to try to figure out what it was, and he saw an upright man, or man-like thing, with the lower half of a goat, a bare upper chest, and large horns on his head. He immediately panicked and ran down the hill, and this thing he saw before he completely turned, this thing jumped a small pond that it was across from, and it actually started pursuing him until he got down a hill and reached an area where there were some junky cars or something, and it stopped pursuing him. And he had no idea that a goat man was an actual phenomenon until he had heard that podcast. Interesting.
With everything that you're doing, you sound like, well, and I like to talk about your business with your paranormal stuff that you work with, but digging into these cryptids and these monsters, are you also a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch researcher too, Nathan?
There was an outbreak of Bigfoot or something like a Bigfoot activity in this area in 2006. It was before I moved up here, but I did investigate it in hindsight, retroactively. And so I have, for doing any field work, I can't say I have, but people come to me with all sorts of strange phenomena that occurs locally here in Washington County. And a number of people have came to me with Bigfoot sightings, and other researchers have collected stories of Bigfoot sightings. Linda Godfrey has, the Beast of Bray Road author. She's collected some Bigfoot sightings here from Washington County.
Yeah, we've had Linda on the show a couple times. It's interesting in that in the state of Wisconsin and rural Illinois, but more so Wisconsin, I never realized how much activity there was up there. Of course, I don't know if you are familiar with a Bigfoot researcher that I don't know I believe he's up near Rhinelander. Jeff Hilling is up in that area. Doing a lot of research, but in talking to Linda, a lot of creepy things up your way. Dog people, and a lot of scary things.
Yeah, I mean, there was just recently a sighting of something Goatman-like out by Holy Hill, which is also chronicled on my blog at jnathancouch.com. And the lady described that as having canine-like legs. She'd never heard of Goatman either. I suggested maybe it's Goatman just because of those backwards bending legs. And a whole host of people came forward after that story saying that they had saw walking canines. This one gentleman was playing golf near here, near West Bend, Wisconsin. I think it might have been in Fond du Lac County, with his father in broad daylight, and saw this two-legged dog thing go walking off into the woods. And there's just an unbelievable assortment of strange phenomena in Wisconsin.
Any thoughts as to why it's there, why it's so centrally located there?
That's a very good question. I know there have been a lot of theories about ley lines and vortexes and all sorts of energy, and these are things that I'm not terribly familiar with. But there has to be a reason so much stuff is experienced here. I mean, Wisconsin has 3 different UFO capitals.
Right.
The state, one county over from where I'm living currently. It seems like Wisconsin is a real twilight zone. I'm not sure if it's some kind of supernatural thing, but it is definitely something I hope to try to better understand soon.
Well, I know we've had I can't think of the lady's name. Had her on the show here about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. There's a pretty big. I think that her and her daughter run a cafe up your way. And I know Wisconsin's a huge state, but
yeah, I think that's up in Burlington.
Yes,
is that the Sci-Fi Cafe or
the
something
Sci-Fi?
Like that?
That's right. And she was telling me, I'm going through my notes looking for her name. We had her on the program. Very interesting lady.
Yeah, I know her name too, and I just can't think of it.
Having a senior moment, but she was telling me about just all the activity up there. I didn't realize the UFO activity was so heavy duty up that way, and a lot of lakes where people report things that come out of the water, and a lot of people, just tons and tons of people that have had so many sightings up in that. Just again, it's a mecca, it's a hot spot.
The strangest story I've heard up here...
Mary Sutherland, that's her name, Mary Sutherland.
Yes, that's it, thank you. The strangest thing I've heard of in Wisconsin is I was told this story secondhand by someone. It took place at a little nature reserve here. There was a little lake called Rainbow Lake. And this fellow knew a guy who was out there on a little boat in Rainbow Lake. And he saw this log near his boat, and I think he dropped his paddle or something, and he was reaching for the paddle, and the log blinked at him with one big eye.
Really?
And then went into Rainbow Lake and disappeared, and he got out of there. And Rainbow Lake's a very small lake, and I've heard stories that it might be connected to Lake Winnebago via some underground streams, but I have no idea if that's true. But the blinking log of Rainbow Lake is the weirdest thing I've heard of.
Yeah. Again, I remember Mary telling me. I guess they have a pretty dedicated group of people that have seen so much, and I believe they have a monthly or a quarterly meeting. And she said they even bring in a lot of big ufologists. They've brought in Stanton Friedman. They've brought in a lot of big people. They don't do much advertising. It's a restaurant. It's kind of known for that. People are welcome to come in. They don't really advertise much about it. But it's just amazing, all the stuff that comes through there in that group. It's their own kind of unique little group.
Yeah, there's up in Burlington. There is this. I'm not sure if it's done by the Sci-Fi Cafe people, but there's a tour. They take you out to a vortex where there's supposed to be. You can leave all these offerings for fairies and what have you, and supposedly you have to sign a waiver because so many people get nauseous from going there.
Really?
And I talked to a couple of people who took my tour who went there, and sure enough, they got very sick going on the tour.
So Vortex is in Wisconsin then?
Apparently, I've not been to Burlington myself. It's on my to-do list. It sounds like there's some real heavy-duty 40 and stuff up there.
Yeah, because in Sedona, obviously, I know there's the Sedona vortexes, and I've talked firsthand with people that have gone out there, and you can just see amazing things. Go out there in the middle of the night and in Sedona, in the Sedona area, and look up, and they're not shooting stars. There's objects moving in patterns, in calculated type patterns. And one of the great ufologists, Grant Cameron, we've had on the show many times, he's gone out there and experienced it. And he said, if you don't believe in UFOs or ufology or anything like that, go out there for one night and lean back in your car and watch for an hour, and it'll make anybody a believer that there's something out there.
We actually did have some UFO activity reported to me during that most recent Goatman or whatever type of sighting it was that happened out by Holy Hill. I briefly mentioned that. It happened back in, I think, like September 17th or something. This thing that was sort of Goatman-like dashed out in front of a car, and it was almost hit. And a daughter and a woman and her teenage daughter were in the car and saw it. And Mom drew a sketch and sent it to me. It's up on jnathancouch.com, and it has sort of an oblong, almost gray alien-like type head to it. She didn't get to see its face because it braced, because it thought it was going to get hit by the car.
Really?
But the daughter remarked that it looked extraterrestrial. And when I mentioned that in my blog post about it, one person came forward, and a couple of days before that sighting, he was in the Holy Hill area, which is here in Washington County, Wisconsin, and he saw something in the sky he thought was a falcon. And it sort of moved, and the light caught it, and he realized it was metallic. So he doesn't know if that's related, but he did offer that to me when I said something about extraterrestrial activity.
Very, very interesting. One of our listeners in Inception Radio sent a question for you. Neutron writes in and says, Nathan, with Wisconsin being very active with UFO sightings, do you and other researchers believe that maybe they're related to these cryptids, kind of like a Goatman or Sasquatch or some of these monsters, if you will?
Well, I've heard the theory that a number of people have put out there. I think it's a pretty old theory. I've seen it in old Freudian journals as far back as the 70s, that some think a lot of these outbreaks of strange creature sightings are extraterrestrials releasing test animals, has a way of seeing what can live in this environment and all of that. And it's an interesting theory, but you'd think we'd start finding some of these strange test animals' corpses, or they would have started multiplying by now. So I don't know how much stock I put in that theory, but it is intriguing, especially since I myself saw some strange lights in the sky in mid-September in near the community of Jackson, which is, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes away from the Holy Hill area. Me and a whole busload of tour patrons, we were doing a paranormal tour, saw 4 large amber orbs of light flying this way and that way in a phalanx sort of formation. And interestingly enough, the majority of UFO sightings in Washington and Ozaukee counties here in Wisconsin are about strange amber street-like colored orbs in the sky. So I don't know if that's related to any of this, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I can't explain Goatman or
right.
Bigfoot, but I don't know if there's a connection, but I guess anything's possible.
Well, we're kind of coming back. We're kind of coming back around. It seemed like for a while the UFO activity died down, the cryptozoology stuff died, but now more and more photos are coming out. More and more people. There's been some stuff on the internet that I follow, and again, of course, as you know, you got to watch out for the hoaxes because there's plenty of that stuff out there. But it seems like people are getting some credible pictures of some of this stuff.
Yeah, these cryptozoological animals are real popular right now. People are really paying attention, looking for them.
They are. Our guest tonight is Nathan Couch. Check out his website at jnathancouch.com. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Fringe Radio on the internet at fringeradioshow.com. Stick around. We got a lot more to cover. Nathan, we appreciate Nathan Couch is our guest tonight. His website is NathanCouch.com. Again, Nathan, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday night to be here with us.
Oh, there's nothing I'd rather be doing than talking about Fortean things, particularly Goatman. So this is good.
It's a lot of fun for sure. But yeah, before we went into the break, again, there has just been a lot of stuff coming out, more credible photos. It's interesting with all of the Bigfoot hunters out there, or researchers, I should say. You'd kind of figure with as many guys and gals that are up in the mountains running around, taking pictures, using the FLIR cameras for, heat signatures and pulling all the castings, you'd figure somewhere along the line somebody would come face to face with one of these things or get, within proximity and get some decent pictures.
Yeah, the Bigfoot in Wisconsin thing is difficult for me, and it's difficult for me in a lot of states in the United States because most of the old growth forest is gone. For like in Wisconsin, this used to be all woodland, and then the state was more or less clear cut at a certain point, and now it's part of the Midwestern breadbasket. But so if these things clear, they left, and now they've had to come back. And to think that these things are able to be migrating back, and they've been getting seen for decades now. You'd think somebody would have seen them, but it's almost. I mean, cryptozoologists don't like this, but it seems to me like if these Bigfoot creatures or Goatman or any of these things are here in Wisconsin, they have to. It seems like they have to have some sort of, if not supernatural ability, some sort of ability that is almost supernatural that allows them from not being seen.
Right. Well, yeah, they seem to. I mean, more and more people are talking about them actually possibly being dimensional type creatures that can move in and out of dimensions because some people claim that they'll see something walking up a hill which they'll take for a Bigfoot or something, and the thing just it vanishes or mystically disappears. Even though could they be a primitive interdimensional type of being?
Yeah, I mean, if there really is a connection between the Native American Sasquatch and what people are seeing these days, Native Americans say that Sasquatch can make himself not be seen. So, I mean, whether or not that the Sasquatch from Native American folklore or religion is actually, this hairy hominid that people are reporting nowadays, who knows? But the Sasquatch from Native American lore definitely, there's some supernatural capabilities.
And is that kind of when you talk to different people about like Goatman, when you've interviewed different people and do the research, is that another aspect of him where he can virtually vanish in front of people?
Goatmen are primarily seen out in suburbia, not very, either just outside of small towns or sometimes just outside or inside major cities. So he would have to have some kind of ability like this. I mean, because with Goatman, I don't think there's any way it can be just some kind of hidden animal, because there's no primate in the fossil record with horns or hooves. There's no ruminid that's learned how to walk bipedally like this. Nothing goat-like. So it almost has to be something supernatural or extra-dimensional. There is one instance I've heard where it's actually these Goatmen have been seen teleporting. There was a story that Nick Redfern discovered. He's written, Three Men Seeking Monsters and about 100 really great cryptozoology books. And a woman came up to him and told him about an experience at White Rock Lake in Dallas, which has a Goatman legend. She was jogging around the lake in the middle of the afternoon. She started having a sudden panic attacks. She'd never had panic attacks before. She just knew this must be a panic attack. And she looked over to the left or right, and she saw this thing that was a man with goat-like horns and hooves and two backwards bent legs grinning at her. And it walked toward her smiling, got a few feet away from her, and vanished in a flash of light.
Wow. Interesting, very interesting. And well, again, we were talking about again where these kids or people are getting lured to these train tracks. Interesting stuff, man. It takes it to a different level. When you start to talk about the maybe mythical or not, something that may have some sort of mind altering power, if you will.
Well, one thing that I've noticed in almost every Goatman sighting, people experience just maddening fear when they see these things, or panic attacks. And seeing anything anomalous is scary. But a lot of times when somebody says they've seen Bigfoot or they've seen some lake monster, a lot of those witnesses, some are terrified, but some have this sense of wonder or awe or excitement or adrenaline. But almost always with Goatman, it's fear. And it's interestingly enough that the Greek god of the wild, Pan, who is described as half man, half goat, mythology says if people disturbed him, interrupted his sleep out in the wild places, stumbled onto him, basically, they would be overcome with a maddening fear. And the word panic is actually derived from Pan's name. So it's pretty interesting to me that so many people just feel pure panic when they see these things.
Yeah, maybe a paralyzing type fear. That's the one thing, I think myself, if I ever encountered an alien being or whatever, I think I know a lot of people talk about, well, I try to interact or whatever. I think myself, and I think a lot of people, if something very, very out of the ordinary appeared right in front of us within arm's reach or within a few steps reach, I think most of us would be absolutely panic stricken, Nathan.
Yeah, and like that strange creature sighting from Holy Hill I was talking about earlier, where the lady almost hit this weird creature with her car. A lot of people were posting on jnathancouch.com like, why didn't this lady take a picture?
Right.
I'll put myself in her shoes. It's at night. She's driving. She's got her teenage daughter with her. She's not playing on her cell phone. You come around a curve, and Holy Hill is very curvy. The road's dangerous. I was out there earlier today, and it's not fun to drive out there at night. And there's this absolutely bizarre thing that she felt really traumatized from seeing it. She almost hit it. She swerved around it. So you just had this experience. If I was there, I've got my phone in my pocket. I got to get my phone out of my pocket. I got to punch in my code to get access to the phone. Right. Then I got to find the app. Then I got to take the picture. And some type of animal that almost got hit by a car is going to be long gone. This lady wasn't some Bigfoot hunter out there with trap cameras. She was Johnny on the spot. Just
somebody that encountered something quite out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get that picture in that situation, I'll tell you that.
Have you, with all the work that you've done over the years, have you captured some interesting stuff?
I haven't captured anything along the lines of a Goatman or a Bigfoot, any type of evidence along those lines. But I've captured some EVPs and some anomalous photos. I captured a few strange photos of something that I thought might be a ghost, even before I actually became a researcher or a writer. So a few things like that, some faces in cemeteries, and definitely some stuff that left an impression on me, but nothing as grandiose as a Goatman.
Yeah. Interesting. Again, the little bit of looking around I've done, nobody seems to have grabbed any sort of pictures, just some magnificent sketches, and of course the looks of this thing changes quite a bit.
Yeah, and there's an amazing artist. I don't remember the name of the artist, but it's on DeviantArt. Somebody took and photoshopped a really terrifying looking Goatman and getting his camera taken by a trap camera. And every time there's a Goatman sighting, somebody steals this artist's photo and posts it. with the Holy Hill sighting. Some local Milwaukee cement business posted that photo claiming it was the Goat Man of Holy Hill, and it got shared, I don't know, about 1,000 times on Facebook, and I had people sending it to me, and so there's some realistic Goat Man artwork out there too, but it is all just artwork.
Now, Goatman, in your talking points, and we've got coming up here in just we got a little bit of time yet. We've got an NBC News break. I'd like to talk about your paranormal research in the second hour, but a couple of things you put in your talking points. The Goatman of Bowie in Maryland. Now, is that another hot spot, or people have reported something very similar there as well?
There was a huge outbreak of sightings with this the Goatman of Bowie in 1970, 1971, and most of the sightings there described something that sounded a lot like a Bigfoot-like creature. I think there might only be one encounter that actually describes something that looks goat-like, but folklore says it's, satyr-like. But all the sightings were of a Bigfoot-like creature, and most of those sightings are actually cataloged in Bigfoot digests and things like that. Markup Sasnick did most of the research on that Goat Man. His Maryland Bigfoot Digest has 350 Bigfoot sightings in Maryland alone, and the Goat Man made up about a couple dozen of those.
Interesting. Now, with your book, Goat Man, Flesh or Folklore, very interesting. Something did you pull? I mean, did you do a lot of research? I mean, kind of digging deep into these different stories and different sightings and stuff, and look at newspaper articles and kind of go back deep with some of this stuff.
Yeah, it was a two-pronged attack. I had to research the folklore, where the folklore came from, and where it all started. Then I had to find the sightings. I scoured newspapers and old Fortean journals and put the call out on social networking sites to find people who had information. That's typically how I did my research. I did a lot of this stuff was sightings that had already been collected, and I put them together in one place. But I did discover a few that had previously not been reported. A couple of strange albino-like Bigfoot sightings out near the Poplick Trestle from the 70s, things like that. And, of course, some original Goatman sightings from Wisconsin.
Gotcha. Well, interesting. I will have to take a look at the book because, again, another fascinating creature. One of many that people like yourself, researchers like yourself, are coming across. Do you consider yourself, at least with these cryptids, do you consider yourself more of a writer or a researcher, or do you ever have a desire to go out and try to, and again, this Goatman almost seems a little mystical more than anything else, but kind of like Linda Godfrey does, maybe go out and do a little digging for something like this?
I have not actually done any field work along the lines of monsters, Bigfoot or anything along those lines. But it's definitely something that I would like to get to, and it's nothing that I would rule out. I do approach the subject from almost like a journalistic standpoint with a Fortean approach, where I try to – I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, be they a skeptic or be they someone who believes in a lot of these more esoteric phenomena. So I would say at this point I'm much more of a writer. Someone asked me earlier today if I thought of myself as a cryptozoologist, and to me that implies that you have some sort of degree in zoology, and I certainly do not.
Well, there's a lot of cryptozoologists that sure are self-proclaimed experts,
yeah.
But I don't want to. I've had
there's a few out there. It's kind of like anybody can say they're a cryptozoologist. I don't know that there is a master's degree in it, but I'm definitely much more of a writer and a researcher than an actual zoologist.
What do you think about, just to get your take on it? There was this guy there was this guy that I can't think of his name. Boy, I'm an IT guy by day, Nathan, and I've been on call all week, and I've been hammered with on-call issues. I'm trying to sharpen up my game here a little bit tonight. My apologies. There was this fellow that was going around that supposedly was dragging a Bigfoot body around trying to make
Rick Dyer.
There you go. What do you think about that type stuff?
I can't believe that got coverage because he pulled off the exact same hoax, and this most recent one was a hoax. He pulled off the exact same hoax around 2008 in Georgia. He claimed he had a Bigfoot in the freezer, and it turned out to be a rubber suit stuffed with ground beef. And he claimed that the government stole the real body and tried to discredit him with that, which I don't know why the men in black would be interested in a Bigfoot. But, yeah, just because he pulled off something like this just a few years ago and he got coverage again, it just really shows you that a lot of journalists don't do their research. I mean, this guy, he makes a mockery out of all of it. Stuff like that really, really hurts real research.
Oh, it does. It does. And I know there's so many people that, again, that are out there. Guys like Jeff Hilling, who we had on the show, just amazing people that are boots to the ground. Nathan, can we keep you for another hour? We got NBC News coming up in just a little bit. Take a little break, and we'll pick up, talk about paranormal research and your other books. All right. Our guest tonight, Nathan Couch. Go check out his website at jnathancouch.com.